Hello, and welcome to the mentorDINO YouTube channel. I'm your host, Caitlin Rozier. I am an architect and founder of mentorDINO. Each week, I interview amazing professionals in and around the architecture, engineering, and construction industry to help foster learning, growth, and inspiration in others. Thank you all to our current subscribers, and if you're new, we'd love to have you join our community. So hit subscribe. It really does help others be able to discover this resource. So let's dive in. I hope you enjoy this conversation. Welcome back, everybody, to the mentorDINO YouTube channel. I'd like to welcome Ellen Beaman, CEO of Casa Bella Architects in Austin, Texas. Thank you, Ellen, for taking the time to speak with me today.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, Caitlin.
So before we get started, that was only a small introduction. So would you mind introducing yourself fully, your company, what you're doing within the company, to give our listeners a little bit more information about you?
Absolutely. So, Casa Bella Architects was founded in 1989 in Austin, Texas, by my business partner, best friend, and dad, Jaime Beaman. I was 6 years old when the company was founded. So, Casa Bella has been in my life my entire life. Casa Bella sent me and my sisters to college. Austin has grown and changed so much in the last 30, 40 years. And I'm sure that people who are older than me who are from Austin would say it's been changing since all time. But it used to be a much smaller town. And Casa Bella really has had a hand in shaping the built environment that we have in Austin. So, we have done several landmark projects here, like the Mexican American Cultural Center. At the Texas State Capitol grounds, there is a Tejano monument, a huge piece of granite with these beautiful bronze statues recognizing and commemorating the contributions that the Tejano culture has made on the state of Texas. So we have also done many projects for the University of Texas, Austin Independent School District, Texas Facilities Commission. I could go on, and if you're lucky, I might. So about
We may
6
hit all
years
of them.
ago, right. About 6 years ago, my dad brought me into the company to do marketing work for them. My background is in agriculture. I am not an architect, which is a
Interesting.
very
Or
important
marketer.
distinction. No, well, that's when you sell vegetables all over the city of Austin and you're trying to get a restaurant owner to buy 80 pounds of habanero peppers, there's got to be an element of marketing and sales in there. And, my dad had a need, and he knew that I was between seasons on my farm, and he asked for me to just come help him finish some proposals and reports, and then reeled me in from there. So since then, we have decided to pursue a succession plan that is very much in full swing. We are now fully legally business partners. We are both owners of the company. I am the CEO, which technically means I'm his boss because he's just the president. But the the arrangement that we have now is really perfect for both of us. For many, many, many years, he ran the business as well as being the lead architect and the head project manager. Now we have a very robust staff of project managers, architects, and interior designers, but now he only does architecture, project management, and mentorship, which is really his passion, is to mentor people. And I run the business. So every paper comes through my hand. And it really works well that we get to focus on individual parts of the business as opposed to one person wearing all of the hats. And so I have been the CEO for 7 months, and so far we're having a really great time.
Well, delayed congratulations.
Thank you.
Did did you have to, with changing over the company, how did the business structure before need to change into both being partners? Was he running it as a sole proprietorship? Or did you have
He
to,
had
did
a
he already, like, how did that have to switch?
So he had a junior business partner who was a minority owner in the business for 25 years, who ended up going to a different firm as a principal about 18 months ago. So there was, and then my dad became the 100% owner. So he had already established, the legal structure of shares within the business.
Mm-hmm.
And because there was a transaction with his former business partner, um, my dad bought him out of all of his shares to become 100% owner. We had the baseline necessary for me to start purchasing shares from him.
Gotcha. That does make it a lot easier when it's already set up in shares. But
Yes, that worked out very well for us.
to funnel in that you were doing more sales for farmers beforehand, I did notice on your bio on your company's website that you came up with a solutions-based marketing method. How have you found that has worked when transitioning over into services that we're providing on the architecture side?
That's a great question. Everybody has a need, whether it's an individual consumer or a business. And when I was doing agricultural sales and marketing, that was also a business to business endeavor. And so any business owner is going to have needs and is going to have pain points. So when we look at a solution based marketing strategy, we are identifying the pain points. What is a business owner's biggest challenge, and how can we step in and provide a solution? So, for example, when I was selling vegetables, perhaps the business owner's problem was they, especially in Austin where we have nothing but foodies, um, maybe they needed a specialty item to create a very distinctive dish that they could then market and sell as something that no one else in the Austin area was offering, or a specific type of flavor profile. So I would be able to make recommendations to them and say, well, this is a specialty pepper from South America that, to my knowledge, nobody in the southern United States is able to grow. Here are some recipe ideas for that. And in that way, I'm creating a solution where I am giving that restaurateur a competitive edge. Now, when we move into the
Mm-hmm.
architectural field, that's where the pain points and challenges become much more distinctive and often a lot more financially burdensome. So, what we want to do is give concierge level service to every client in every phase of their project, because whether somebody is trying to build an $80 million industrial warehouse facility and they have drainage issues on their site, or they're getting pushback from the permitting jurisdiction, we have the expertise and the subject matter experts to coordinate and present them with the solution to their very real problem, because what they need is to be at a point where they can start bringing revenue into their own business. And that's what we want to see for them. So whether, like I said, it's an $80 million industrial facility or a $10,000 interior finish out for somebody who is being displaced from their current location, we'll say, for those in Austin who are listening, you'll know this one, the I-35 expansion, the businesses who are getting displaced because of this highway expansion, they are going to need solutions to minimize the downtime and the financial burden that they are going to inevitably suffer by having to locate a new home and then start bringing revenue in again.
Yeah, and finding a new home in general is costly, but for those in the Pittsburgh area, we're very much keen to, once you have your location, if you change locations, that's a huge shift. Even if you're I had a client, they were in the Strip District of Pennsylvania, which is more a bunch of local shops. And he just had to move 2 blocks down, but he was still in that same district and people couldn't find him. Everybody went to his old location. And then they're like, oh, he must have closed, and not like look up, oh, he just moved a couple blocks down. And so he actually lost a lot of business and had to do a lot more marketing to let people know that he didn't have to do with the previous location. So I don't know if that's a difficulty in Austin, but even if it's a temporary move, that's big financial hurt to a company.
No, and that's absolutely right. And that is something that the right architectural firm can help with, because we can look at options for either temporary or long-term signage. We can look for partnerships with whomever is taking over the pre-existing space. How can we partner with them in order to drive the existing business to the new location, or even find a system of reciprocity where both businesses end up benefiting from that move?
Exactly. So diving into the project work you guys do at Casa Bella, I know, so you're helping potentially some of these shop owners. You talked a little bit about municipal projects. What is the main focus and how did you guys pick that focus?
Well, there's a lot to be said for government work. There's always going to be more government work. And with the exception of a global pandemic, government dollars are typically fairly secure. Once that money is allocated towards a specific project, that money stays in that project. Unlike, and we do private work, but we can also see if construction costs go up, or if there is, an extenuating circumstance where the private sector owner cannot afford all of that money to go into their building project, they're going to pull back on that project. Versus, for example, right now we are working on a theater upgrade and renovation for the George Washington Carver Museum Theater. Um, this is uh, this is a very important historic project, because this location was Austin's first public library. And then as Austin grew, this neighborhood became predominantly African American. And then the library became a cultural genealogy resource center and continued to grow and grow and grow. And now it's this beautiful museum, cultural space, and theater. Um, but well, as happens, things fall into disrepair, and it's important to come in and do upgrades, renovations to, the theater floor, and to the lighting, and to the plumbing, the restrooms, the HVAC units. If this had been a private project, especially right now that we're seeing a bit of an economic squeeze and we're all looking down the barrel of a very real recession, that money is safe. That money is going to stay in the theater, and we are going to have that theater open and ready for South by Southwest next year to host all kinds of incredible cultural performances. So there's that on the business side, and my staff will sometimes tease me and call me Mrs. Bottom Line, because as the CEO of a business, I have to make sure that we have a healthy bottom line. And so doing government work is a lot more secure in that. But then on the other side of it, I'm also a big softie, and this is my home. And I I am not able to single-handedly stop the development that's happening here in the greater Austin area. But the position that I'm in, I can be part of the decisions and make sure that responsible decisions are being made for culture, for the people, and for the environment. So having a hand in public work, so that's, municipal, K through 12, higher ed. We do a lot of state work. We do work for the Texas Military Department. We have the opportunity to build the world around us and ensure that the development and the building that happens truly serves the people of our community. And not speaking for anybody from outside of Austin, but I can't imagine that a firm from outside of our community is going to have the same visceral dedication as a firm that has been operating here in our home for 34 years.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I 100% agree. I'm always advocating for making sure, even if a national firm's working on something, that a local is on it and having more input than just finishing the documents and doing construction administration. They should be a part of the conversation because it's our community, even if somebody is coming in from other cities, like leveraging that resource of being and living in the space and knowing what's going on. So, but I know you also serve on multiple chambers of commerce. How have you found your voice being heard in that realm too?
I am a huge fan of any chamber of commerce. What I have found is, and I'm a member of three of them currently: the Austin Chamber, the Round Rock Chamber, and the Lake Travis Chamber. Our office is located in the Lake Travis area. Um, there are a lot of networking groups that sort of foster a sense of competition, and the chamber is the most collaborative environment I have found. It is businesses looking to help other businesses. Even if we may be in direct competition with one another, I believe that, especially within the Greater Austin Chamber of Commerce, there is absolutely an energy and an attitude that we are all going to find the most success if everyone around us is succeeding. There's there's no benefit in one person holding a monopoly or someone stepping on other people in order to meet their goals or their bottom line. So the people who join the Chamber of Commerce are there to empower and embolden and bolster all of the other businesses in their area. And something else that I think is really significant is we can get together and look at political issues, social issues, environmental issues, and we can discuss how each one of these things is going to impact not only our businesses in the area, but how it's going to impact our consumers. And when we work together to find a solution for a problem that exists within our community, we are going to have a lot more success than individual satellites who are either just up all night worrying about, here the some of the big issues are water scarcity. That's huge here in Texas. It's a scary, drastic issue. Roads and transportation, and workforce housing. And when we all come together as a chamber and as a group of like-minded business owners, even if we don't have the same political affiliations, even if we don't have the same backgrounds, we want what's best for our community, and we're able to be stronger as a unit.
That's awesome. Do you have any, if somebody's interested in getting involved in any of their chambers of commerce, what is what are some steps that they can take to start getting involved or figuring out if there are open positions that they can see if it's available? What's that process like?
All chambers are going to have either a membership or an ambassador committee. And so when somebody is interested in the chamber, whether they know somebody who's a member, if you already know a member of a chamber and you're interested in them, interested in that chamber, ask the person that you know for an introduction to chamber leadership, and they will reach out and they will foster a conversation. If you don't know somebody who's a member, but you know that there's a local chamber that you're interested in joining, if you get on the website, there will always be a link to, getting more information. Most chambers have an ambassador committee, and that's where I tend to gravitate towards, because it's the welcome wagon. It's all of the, you know brightest and friendliest personalities who want to meet people, who want to bring people into the fold and find out what their needs are and how the chamber can best serve them. So when I joined the Austin Chamber, uh, they called me and we did an introductory interview, and they just wanted to learn more about my business and what my goals were to join the chamber. And then they said, okay, well, the way you get the most out of your membership is by joining a committee. Right now we have openings on the economic development committee, which for me, again, no shade, but like, that's not my area, is economic development. And they said, or you can be on the ambassador committee. You can be the welcome wagon. And what we do is we go to parties and we are cheerleaders for everyone. And that's me. I am a grown up cheerleader. I never outgrew that role. So the most important thing about becoming a member of a chamber or any other networking group is you have to show up and you have to be consistent. And I have found some wonderful return on my investments with my chambers, especially the ones that I'm most active with, because it is palpably building brand recognition for Casa Bella Architects. People are recognizing our name more and asking more pointed questions, because we have been a household name in years past, but now that Austin has grown so much and there's so many national firms coming in and so much additional competition, that it's really important to maintain that presence so that we are front of mind for the people that we interact with. And at some point everybody is going to need an architect. It's not industry or consumer specific.
Yeah. No, that's great
the other thing.
advice.
Sorry to interrupt. The other thing is, I think that almost all, if not all, chambers have a leadership program, and it's typically like 9 months long. People who want to be a part of it will apply and then go through a series of, day long or, half day long, all kinds of activities, and each organization has a different one. But I would definitely recommend to any listeners who are new to their community and want to join a chamber and grow their network very quickly and very specifically, join the leadership program of that chamber.
That is great advice. And you get to at
full
least
of it.
know people if you don't know anybody. We talked a little bit about sustainability with the work at Casa Bella and doing municipal projects and how you're on the Chamber of Commerce and just very involved in your community. How has sustainable design practices weaved into the project work and what you're doing outside the office?
Sustainability is a critical value for Casa Bella as an organization, as well as for many of us that work for the company. One of the coolest things about Austin is the city government and the population as a majority really, really value our environmental sustainability, and we want to be stewards of the natural environment. And there are a lot of ways that can be achieved through volunteerism, affiliations with specific organizations, as well as building practices. So one of the city of Austin's council ordinances is that city projects of a certain size are required to be LEED certified. We are just finishing up a contract at Casa Bella for 7 fire stations and the fire training academy. And these are the majority of these stations are historic, the oldest one being from 1929. And now the big push behind this project is that in 1929, 1930, 1950, it was all firemen. There were no firewomen. So it wasn't until 2018 when we were able to finally start the project to create gender equitable fire stations. Now, that in and of itself is very important. It's crucial for people and firefighters, emergency responders, as well as the communities that they serve. But on top of that, there is a requirement that each of these fire stations be minimum LEED silver certified. And we have effectively, the last fire station is still pending silver, but we have effectively met or exceeded that goal. 2 of the fire stations are LEED gold. The other 5 are LEED silver. The training academy was too small of a project um, to qualify for LEED certification, but we held that project to all of the same standards, and we submit that same paperwork that we would to LEED to the city. So, one of my big passions about being in this industry is to identify building codes that at one point certainly served a purpose, but now they're a little bit outdated. People are taller than they used to be. And so at some point, the required door heights were increased. At this point, now we are looking at it's very exciting. The city of Austin just changed their ordinance on parking because we are trying to make Austin a less car dependent city. But when each 1 bedroom apartment requires 1.5 parking spaces, and a 3 bedroom apartment requires 2 parking spaces, bars and restaurants require a fairly high percentage of parking to occupancy. What we're doing is we're incentivizing driving cars and penalizing business owners and developers for not having the space to accommodate for parking that might not really be needed. And I feel like I'm about to get on a big soapbox, for which I apologize. You better be careful because I'll do it here and there. But my passion is to be part of the change in city codes, international codes. I'm a member of the International Code Council as a part of this campaign that I want to endeavor on, because there are some codes that simply don't make sense anymore. It is illegal in the greater Austin area to divert gray water from hand washing lavatories into toilet tanks. We're almost out of water. Yes, it would be an extra pump that we would have to install. Yes, there would be an extra filtration system, but with the advent of very available, sustainable energy sources, we have to be much, much more careful about water reuse. So I suppose to answer your question, being a farm girl who is not an architect but finds herself as the CEO of an architecture firm, the difference that I want to make is all about sustainability. And sustainability is about it's about finances, it's about society, and it's about the environment.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with all of it, because it's way more than just sustainable practices on what we build. But like, I've got a friend here in Pittsburgh, and he's 6'9". The shortest ceiling you can put in is 6'8". And so like, we'll be on, like, I'm in an older home built in the 1920s. Like, he looks like a giant. in my house, or will walk around and he almost hits his head on signs, but they're all to code. But he is beyond the code. And so I'm always very hesitant when I start getting towards like thresholds that I know are like, hey, this actually affects other people beyond just what that code minimum is, because a lot of it's old. And so you have to think of the people now.
That's
But
exactly right.
yeah. But shifting gears to something else that you had done for a while, you were an adjunct professor for a number of years. Can you tell me a little
Still
bit
am.
about what you were teaching and how you were able to balance still am balancing all you do, because you are a CEO, you're doing all this with the Chamber of Commerce and teaching. What are you teaching and how do you balance everything?
Well, I will answer the second question first. I don't have children. So that is a big part of a lot of people's lives that takes up a lot of time and energy. And um, I I have a stepdaughter who is lovely. She's 16, so she doesn't need the kind of attention that younger children do. Um, but I am able to take the energy that I would have by raising a family. Uh, I'm able to take that energy and put it towards my passions. So I have a degree in agronomy. I have a Bachelor of Science in agronomy from Texas Tech University. And like I mentioned, I didn't just sell vegetables for farms. I planted them, harvested them, cleaned them, managed the farm, consulted on farms. And 6 years ago in October, I was recruited to teach for Austin Community College's brand new sustainable agriculture department. So not to go too far into it, but I teach for both continuing education programs, which means they are not for college credit, as well as accredited classes that students can either get their associate's degree or they can take those credits and transfer it to a 4-year university. I teach, all right, I'll just go down the list. Soil science, soil and water conservation, soil science is truly my passion. If I could only think or talk about one thing for the rest of my life, well, it might be Lord of the Rings, but more practically, it would be soil science. I teach integrated pest management, general botany, um, propagation and greenhouse operations. I teach an irrigation design class. I shouldn't have been the teacher, but I did. I taught history of landscape architecture once. What else do I teach? Crop science. Um, pretty much anything. I love teaching. I love educating. I love finding ways to communicate information to people in a way that they really understand it. Um, I also have a deep love for plants, how they work, soils, what is a healthy soil, how a soil is made, how a soil can be amended, how the way we treat our soil impacts the water system and the climate in general. As an aside, before I get on a soapbox, soil health is the answer to climate change. That's and anybody who wants to talk to me about it, let's have a cup of coffee and talk. But um any time that I am able to gather with a group of people who want to learn more about essentially the magic of the science behind plants and soils, it really feeds me and fills my heart in a way that nothing else does, because when somebody like me looks at the climate crisis and the water crisis, it's easy to get really freaked out and spin out about, nobody cares, there's no solution, whatnot. So when we have these classes, we are building these communities where everyone who shows up actively wants to be part of the solution, and that is something that helps me sleep easy at night, is knowing that there's a lot of us out there and we all want to be part of this.
I'm tempted to send you soil for my garden because it failed this year and we're trying to figure out what's up with the soil, that what changed with it? Because we didn't do anything else different. So I'm like, all right, now how can I like figure out soil science? So I may have to bug you with a bunch of questions on
I
how to
desperately want to talk to
approach
you
it
about that.
for next year. I wish I knew all this information. I would have grabbed like soil samples. You let me know what tests to do, and I'll go do it and we'll figure it out. Then I'll have loads of crops because we had an awful crop yield this year with our garden, and the previous years was fantastic that we were giving away vegetables to people, and this year just was lacking. So I'm going to investigate it before it all freezes up here in Pittsburgh and have you help us figure out a solution for the spring. So
Happy to.
um, but you do make a good point though with balancing all of this, and um, you choosing to not have kids of your own. It's equally important to balance the different buckets and not stretching yourself too thin, even if you are somebody that has a family, and understanding it does take a balance to make sure you're not stretching yourself too thin. And it's, you mentioned like you took the energy that you would have done with kids and put it somewhere else, and so you're still as busy as a parent running around and getting everything else done. I feel like you have like 4 jobs. But what other organizations have left the biggest impact on your journey? There's a couple other ones that I know we haven't hit yet in our conversation.
Well, gosh, I could go on and on. Uh, an important one for me is I am an ambassador for the Austin Parks Foundation. We are a nonprofit that supports the efforts of the Austin Parks and Recreation Department. So the city of Austin has set, and I believe we've achieved a goal where anywhere in Austin is within walking distance of a park. And the Austin Parks Foundation is instrumental in helping with fundraising efforts, community engagement, lots of volunteerism, as well as doing fun stuff. So we are the ones that organize the movies in the parks, which anybody who's never been to a movie in a park, please look into your community and find one, because there's nothing quite like laying on a blanket with your loved ones, surrounded by your community, watching Jumanji or whatever it happens to be on a big screen under the stars. Um, I really appreciate the Austin Parks Foundation. And for me, that is the environmental component. An organization that is, it's a national organization. It started in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and they also have a presence in Austin, is the Jeremiah program. And that organization focuses on single moms with small children who need need help, and they provide assistance with housing. They provide assistance with getting education and completing degrees, getting mentorship and life skills coaching for these moms, as well as providing childcare and a safe place for the kiddos. Again, I'm going to say it because I want everybody listening to look it up, the Jeremiah program. And so that is the arm of social sustainability that is really important. And then, of course, huge national organization that I think that we can all agree we love is Habitat for Humanity. What they do for individuals and the community at large, both for getting people in homes, housing people who work hard, and housing is an uphill battle for people who start in a disadvantaged situation. Giving these people homes and changing their lives, but also I think that providing volunteer opportunities for people who would otherwise not be exposed to the very real fact that there are a lot of members of our communities who are not living in homes right now. And it is a responsibility of every person to help drive that change. So I think that the outreach that Habitat does, and the opportunities that they provide for education and volunteerism of the community is really critical work.
Yeah. And I know another one I was thinking of was with the AIA Women in Architecture group that you guys are also doing down in Austin, because you guys are so active and it's so much fun. I've been tempted to go buy a t-shirt even though I'm not in Austin. Um, can you tell us a little bit about what that organization does? And I think also the Latina group you had mentioned for anybody who is a young architect, designer, or Latina looking for a group to join in Austin, Texas.
Absolutely. So AIA Austin is very robust. My dad was the president for many years. They they are a really important resource for individual architects as well as business owners. And there are a bunch of different committees or organizations underneath that AIA Austin umbrella. So you did mention two of them: Women in Architecture, Latinos in Architecture, and then there's another one called Emerging Professionals, and that is for uh, people that are just younger, just graduated, entering the industry. It's a way for them to learn from one another, meet other people within the industry, to potentially, you know, foster mentorship, professional development. Maybe it helps inform them where they want to work next, if their current workplace is appropriate for them. So I will confess, I don't go to a lot of AIA events, but my staff does, and they have found incredible value. We have so on our staff, current staff of 9 people, 60% is female. Um, 60, nope, over 60%, 70% are of color, Latina or otherwise, Latino or other Latinx. I get it mixed up because I'm an old lady, but we're Hispanic or otherwise. But we have been very active in the Latinos in architecture as well as the women in architecture.
My last question, what advice do you have for young professionals starting out their career in the AEC industry?
The first is, get an education in some form or fashion. So somebody who wants to be an architect or engineer, well, that's a lot of school and a lot of exams. If somebody wants to get into a trade, that is an incredible industry to be a part of. Find a community college. Find a local trade school. Talk to people. Just talk to people. Show up to networking meetings. Crash an AIA event. If someone showed up without an education, without a job, without a membership to an AIA event and said, "Hey, I'm interested in the industry and I just want to rub elbows with existing professionals," they're not going to get turned away. And if they do,
No.
there's something wrong with that chapter. But I would also say, if they've already gone into an education and they're trying to decide, who they want to work for, what do they want to specialize in, seek out a mentor or just start interviewing people. It's amazing what happens when you ask somebody to share their experience and then you just sit and listen quietly. um I will also say that one of my favorite books is from 1937. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And anybody who wants to break into any industry, anybody who wants to get ahead in any way in life, those are the life lessons that we all need to pay attention to. Say less, listen more, ask people about themselves, ask them about their own experience. People trust good listeners. And if somebody were to want to get a job at the number one firm in their region, the best thing you can do is to find a way to get in front of decision maker and let them talk. Obviously, I can talk about myself and my experience and my values for a solid hour. Anyone in a position like mine can do the same.
Yeah, I know even just doing this series, most of my participants I'm interviewing take up the full hour because there's just so much that we can learn from each other and telling our stories. So if anybody wants to get a hold of you or also want to send their dirt samples and talk about it with you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Our email addresses are way too long and confusing to say out loud on a podcast. So Google Casa Bella Architects. It's spelled like it sounds. And then if you click on the about page, it's either no, it's our studio page. If you click on the studio page, it pulls up all of our staff members' bios, and my email address is attached to that. So please just email me, put mentorDINO in the subject line, and I would love to talk about architecture, business, soils, propagation, social justice, and any of these things. I definitely want to talk about it.
Yeah, and I will leave Ellen's email in the description below so you can always check out and reach out to her there. But Ellen, I wanted to thank you so much for talking to me today. And I know it is a beautiful day in Austin, so I don't want to hold you back from a great day anymore.
Caitlin, thank you so much. This was truly a pleasure. And thank you for everything that you do.
Oh, thank you so much, Ellen. I hope you enjoyed our discussion today. Check out the description below for any resources, links, and contact information we discussed. Did you like the conversation today? Is there something you'd like to know more about or a topic I should cover? Leave me a comment below and I will see what I can do to best answer your questions. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. It does really help others be able to find this resource to have larger conversations. So leave me a comment and subscribe. I really appreciate your support.